Welcome, everybody, to a Delco Nerd Network Hot Take. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've never listened to a hot take from us before, well, it's where a few friends get in a basement. We like to give our thoughts, give our opinions on a TV show, a movie, or a game. Today, it's going to be a TV show, and that TV show is Andor Season 2, also the final season, if you didn't know that. Here to discuss with me, as always, Red Squadron leader, Chris Trio. I was going to say the Rogue One, but I'm like, no.
No, I like it. I'll take Red Squadron. Yeah. I'm pretty sure he gets blown up in Empire Strikes Back. But still, I'll take it.
Is Porkins on Red Team?
It might be Porkins.
No, Porkins is definitely not Red Squadron leader. Absolutely not.
There's a chance, who knows? They don't discriminate back at Star Wars. But Gooch, happy to be here, man.
Yeah.
Ready to talk a little Andor.
Yeah. This is going to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, no, I'm actually really curious to see what you think. Because, I think we both liked season 1.
Yeah, I probably should have. I remember being, I think I got to that season after it had all finished. I know we reviewed it like a few weeks after it was done. Mm-hmm. But like I got to it and I was like, oh yeah, this was everything everyone was saying. This is good. This doesn't feel like Star Wars at all. I would not say the same thing about season 2. I think season 2 feels like Star Wars.
Sure.
Which isn't a bad thing, but I guess I'm already talking. I'll start us off.
Go right in. I love it.
So let me just give my opinions. We'll talk about the release schedule because I think that's important too. But
sure.
Andor season 2, the first 6 episodes are some of the most boring episodes of Star Wars content I've ever seen. I was falling asleep. I like slow shit. I love like a slow 6-hour start to a game. I love like getting really introduced to games and stuff like that. And sometimes even movies, depending on what it is. But man, Andor season 2 took a while for its engine to start, and almost to a point where I was like, I didn't not like it, but I was just bored. Like I wasn't entertained. I thought some of the stuff was interesting, like the Mon Mothma stuff I was really into.
Love Mon.
But I didn't like the beginning planet thing, with the team from Scarif? No, not Scarif. What's the planet from the Ferrix?
Oh, Ferrix. Gotcha.
From Ferrix, like they're hiding out. Like that beginning was like not really interesting, and then it culminates in kind of an interesting way. We're gonna have to talk about sexual assault in the Star Wars universe.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. And like there are the part with Saw Gerrera doing the huffing the poison stuff, like was like, this is Saw Gerrera is a crazy character.
You think I'm crazy?
There are points in those first 6 episodes that are good, but mostly I was like seriously dozing off watching it. And then we get to 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this show, it's like a switch went off and things just start happening, and the Gorman stuff happens, and the Rebel Alliance is like formed, and the whole show just spun around for me on its head. I fucking loved the end of Andor season 2. I was enthralled with what was going on between Luthen, Mon Mothma speaking out at the Senate, the Rebel Alliance forming, and then them fight Luthen. I was like, no, I wanted to say Lucian. Luthen, and yeah, like the finding of the Death Star and like the lead up to that. It was all so riveting, but I've been going on. What'd you think?
No, I like it. I'm in the same boat with you on like, I liked episodes 1 through 3 actually a lot, because it kind of showed how disorganized the rebels still really were, and like
for sure
Andor's dropping off this ship, but he's like assaulted by a bunch of.
I hated that part.
I liked it.
Was that on Yavin?
I don't know, honestly. I think it was just on some random planet, but I like the idea of him like showing back up to drop off the ship, and then he's assaulted by another group of rebels who he's actually supplying the ship, who is under the command of the person that he's supplying the ship for, but they don't believe him because no one's in contact and no one wants to say who they're working for because they're all afraid that they're fucking going to be reported to the Empire. And then even with Andor showing up in like an Empire ship and in that like new TIE fighter, I thought that whole sequence was great. Of him trying to leave the
I like that first
hangar
scene for sure. Like, like he's infiltrating the base and he's like has that contact in there.
Yeah, has a conversation with the girl, and I think all that's very well done, and I think it does a very interesting job of showing you that transition from like a tattered rebel like insurgency to like an actual army, which is very cool. And seeing Yavin as a place, of course, is great to see
and
for many reasons.
How it evolves.
Yeah, and it just keeps referencing the Battle of or the Battle of Yavin, and you keep jumping with these year spurts every 3 episodes, which I like that idea a lot. I like traveling through these couple years leading up to the Rebel Alliance and seeing how it's exactly formed and what Luthen had to do specifically to get it there. I thought worked really well. But yeah, is there a lot of talking? Yes. Are there a
lot of talking?
Is there a lot of like, discussing plans and character moments? Yeah, and I think that's what the show goes for. I still think it's lacking the Star Wars porn in a good way, where it's like lightsabers and the Force and stuff like that.
Like for some reason,
it feels much more connected. There's a direct link to, especially Rogue One. I mean, it leads directly into Rogue One. I actually kind of want to rewatch Rogue One.
Yeah,
Did you see that they put it back? I've only seen it once. I've seen actually maybe twice, but they put it back up on Disney Plus with and they changed the poster, and Diego Luna's like in the front now, like he is the main like guy in the poster.
Yeah, because I guess before it was.
It's kind of
Jyn Erso, Lisa Vikander's character, who's really the lead. But yeah, I think Andor supplies a totally different context for Rogue One and sort of the events that go into it, and Saw Gerrera and where all these people are coming from and
where the Rebel Alliance is
how we got there.
Yeah, it's nice to have that fill in, and in a lot of ways, this almost feels kind of like what George Lucas wanted to do with the prequels in a lot of ways. Like it's much more political, it's much more high level, it's much more, and I don't say that in like a it's trying to be so intelligent, but I do feel like it is. It's trying to say some things, and it's talking about
it's a savvy show.
It's talking about insurgency, it's talking about fascism in a real way. It's talking about how you implant these ideas within a populace and have this, how propaganda works, and how you turn a people against another people. And I think that's very interesting. And I think having the Gormans be like an analog for the French in a way is very kind of interesting, and having them be this very human people that we are seeing the Empire do this to no matter what. Because it is funny, you notice, there's no aliens in the Empire. There's no, and this is a point, it's all humans, which they never really bring up directly in the movies, but you never see any aliens. So they're willing to do this to even their humankind, who they apparently like. I think it says a lot. And, I think the whole Gorman subplot was actually very interesting to me. I do think it meandered a bit there in the middle, but I liked seeing, Cyril's journey, and what I still kind of am a bit confused on exactly what his thought process is. So he's like, oh, this is bad, right? By the end, he realizes that they're just destroying this planet. He doesn't know exactly why. He's there on Deidre's.
I would agree. I'm not too, which is fine. And I don't think it's the show's fault. I am a bit confused on exactly
where he lied at the end.
Not even where he lied at the end, but what exactly his point of all this was.
Well, in his mind, he was trying to draw in counter-insurgencies to lead them into a trap.
Right,
and he
but
was trying to stop terrorists. Yeah,
I don't know if he necessarily wants to do that.
No, that's what he thinks he's there for, but then he doesn't realize he's there to actually just cause Gorman unrest, to have them be able to take over the planet and mine it for kyber crystals. That is the ultimate goal, but he doesn't even know that, and Deidre only knows that because, as we figure out later, she's been receiving these Imperial communications that she shouldn't have, and she finds out about a certain star of death, if you will.
So, when they're talking about that, did they set her up?
They didn't set her up.
Where is she get? Is legit that she just happens to get these Death Star communique?
And she never, I guess, said anything is the idea, but the way she really fucked up was that she let that guy Lonnie get her chain code. So he was also reading all of these correspondence throughout the 3 years.
Which is so Deidre is the reason the Death Star is gone.
Right. She's the reason all this leaks for the most part. Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy.
It is.
And then, dude, when she gets put into that facility that Andor was in,
that same type of prison, yeah,
I was like, wow. Good thing she's probably not going to be in there for that much longer.
No, that's true.
I think. I guess they rebuild the Death Star.
No, and they build it really quickly now that you think about it. But dude, I thought her whole journey was great, actually.
I think most of the characters' journeys are really great. Cassian, Bix, Luthen, Clea, like they all have really good arcs, and I think the reason it's so good is the time jumps.
For sure.
I think this show could have been like 5 seasons if we went sequentially, but I have to appreciate the fact that like, okay, like we're not going to break this out into that long. I mean, think about it. We've only had 3 seasons of The Mandalorian,
right.
like, and it's been like 5 years since
right.
that show started. Like, imagine if they did that. I'm glad they just committed to be like, we're gonna do 2 seasons and we're gonna tell the story of the origin of the Rebel Alliance, and I think they succeeded for the most part, even though it's not all highs.
Well, and I will say, even The Mandalorian, they got those out relatively quickly because guess what? They were filming on like the volume and in very kind of simple sets. Whereas this, I'll give them a ton of credit. I felt like I was in every single location, and I feel like that's kind of rare for Star Wars these days, where
especially
you had this
Coruscant.
castle. Yeah,
well, it's funny. Like when I think about the original trilogy, I don't think about Coruscant.
Well, you shouldn't, because you rarely ever see it. I think you only see it once, and that's actually in the re-release when he adds it at the end, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think you ever see Coruscant.
I love going back to it because I feel like it's such an important like character in the prequels.
It's the capital of the Empire.
Yeah, it just kind of like goes away, and we see it in the Fallen Order.
Well, and I'm sure he wanted to do more with it in the prequels
Survivor.
or in the originals, like Lucas and the directors, but just technologically, that's so hard to accomplish at the time. Yeah, I didn't expect to see concrete buildings on Coruscant. I always felt like everything was, metal. So that was an interesting kind of visual cue to me, but that's also because they're really using real locations. Like I think they used some type of art museum for one of the galas that Mon's hosting. The hospital was obviously seemed like a real location.
I mean,
they built out Chandrilla, I think,
yeah.
and I love the exploration of like the Chandrillan culture and stuff like that. It was a very weird amalgamation of like Asian and like medieval European, and I don't know, there was a lot of different influences going on, which it was cool to see. And you're going through all their customs, and they're doing the like wedding hike. Again, that stuff was a little boring, but I actually did like that in the first 3 episodes.
I think that was the part of those first few episodes that I liked, because I was really interested in seeing Mon Mothma.
I agree.
Like develop, from what like she is in those first few episodes to her then speaking out in the Senate against Emperor Palpatine, calling him out, which I guess they had to pull from Rebels, because that speech, it's a bit different in Rebels, but I guess the first canon appearance of her speaking out against the Empire is in Rebels. And there's some characters that appear in Rebels that appear in this. I haven't gotten to Rebels yet, so I don't really know about this. I know Mon Mothma's in Rebels. I know Saw Gerrera's in Rebels. Saw Gerrera is in like all of Star Wars, honestly. Clone Wars, Bad Batch, like he's all over the place. The games. So seeing like all these connective threads like really come in, like it really feels like probably like what I complain about with Marvel, where like everything
it feels like it's actually feeding in.
Yeah, like it's all kind of important. All this stuff that's going on, this setup is.
And
like
I'm sure they've
off.
changed a few things. Like I know Gilroy, he was talking about K2SO's origin. There's apparently a comic that does it much differently from how they end up doing it in Andor. So that's no longer canon. I'm sure there's other little things that, I don't think you need to be as married to it as people expect, but I think Gilroy is married to it enough and feeds in those little plot threads enough to give you satisfaction like you're talking about. And I really would love to see what he would do with another movie. I know taking this on was very exhausting. Apparently it was a long process. He basically shot 4 little movies here, like 3-hour movies each.
Yeah.
It's pretty wild. Lots of real sets, lots of real locations. They're going everywhere. There's a lot of people involved. I just think overall, for what this show is trying to accomplish, it does it tenfold. And I think that really comes from the production value too.
What did you think of the release schedule? I feel like for me, I mean, to very quickly say it, I didn't watch the first week and I got behind, and then that was it. I couldn't keep up because I have just other things going on in my life, and I got behind, and then I was like, nah, dude, I'm like 10 episodes behind.
Well, and I think that kind of also comes from the fact that we want to watch these for a review, so that makes it even harder, where like we're releasing 3 at a time, and if we miss 2 weeks, we're behind 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And we want to catch up and obviously be relevant here and do it within a timely fashion for TV shows especially, and even movies, because I think that matters more than like a video game. But I agree. It is kind of annoying to just kind of catch up like that. Part of me likes to be able to binge like 6 episodes in a row here and there, but it's a bit of a double-edged sword.
I feel like they could have. I feel like they should have dropped maybe the first 6 in one month and then the second 6 in another.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
No,
Because
I
it's
don't think it
interesting.
would've
No,
been
they
bad. Yeah.
never have done that before with a show.
And I think that comes from the format that the show is taking.
Right.
Obviously,
It has a
the
very
3
different kind of
episode
format.
arcs, and it's doing that time jump every.
Which
3
is cool because
episodes.
it makes it kind of digestible. I'm like, I was talking to my mom's boyfriend, and I'm like, you could watch, like, just be reminder, like, every 3 episodes is an arc. So you could probably, like, watch those 3 episodes together, and then you're, like, on to a different,
Exactly.
year. It's
Another
like
phase of the Rebel Alliance.
Yeah.
I agree, and I think that does make it so much more digestible. And it reminds me of there's a what's the Hateful Eight? They released an extended version on Netflix. It's like 4-hour-long episodes.
Oh.
And you can I just think it does make it more digestible to
That
take
movie
something like
is,
that. It's a lot.
It's a talking
It's a lot of
movie,
talker.
too.
So I think it actually made me enjoy it a lot more. And I do think that really helped this series to break it up in this fashion. I will speak to Cassian Andor, man. I think Diego Luna is fantastic throughout this. I think he deserves all the flowers in the world. I really like his kind of journey through this. I like that moment with him and the Force Healer. I actually thought that was a very cool inclusion.
I love when
that feels good. Can I just hold on?
Bail Organa.
Oh, yeah.
When he says, may the force be with you. And it's because it's so. I mean, that recast I was really pissed off about, but then I'm like, okay, this actor's.
Assuming they did.
He was busy.
Yeah,
he was
that
busy.
makes sense.
Yeah. They didn't recast.
Can
him.
Can I just say though, I do appreciate that. Don't give me some CGI terribleness, or even like if you feel like he's very needed in the script, recast
At first,
him.
I was like, did we recast him for one scene? I'm like, oh no, he's pretty integral. But when he says like may the force be with you, it's kind of interesting to like look back at Bail Organa as a character who, was kind of pounding around with the Jedi.
He was there the whole time
at the Senate. He's been there the whole time.
He saw the rise and fall.
Yeah, which
least.
I think kind of points out a flaw in Star Wars because I'm like, there's a lot of people who like palled around with the Jedi. Like, how are we forgetting?
Well,
it's just these outer rim people.
I think that's kind of a common complaint, especially even looking back on the first Star Wars, where people are like, oh, the Jedi. They talk about the Jedi Order as if it was like 100 years ago. It's like, dude, that was 30 years ago. It's not that long. Like, people remember
it makes sense for outer rim people to say that.
That makes more sense,
not
for sure.
like the Senate, the people who are working with them.
It's like you guys knew, like there's definitely 60-year-old senators there who knew what was going on.
You were about to say something.
Oh yeah, no, I really do think that scene with the Force Healer kind of encapsulates the kind of conversation about the Force and how the Force should be treated in Star Wars that I really think should be front and center. Like, I don't know, it's just this moment where she's like, I don't know why you're important, but like, I just have this feeling I have some type of connection. You are important. You need to do what you need to do. And I just thought it was a really great moment. I thought that actor who played it was really fantastic as well. She only gets that one scene. But, I love that type of Force talk.
The end.
What? Oh, true.
She
Where
gets
you get to see her.
stares,
Yeah. Again, just
Little
great
laugh,
little
but-
moments. I really do appreciate that. And let's talk about Bix as well a little bit
Oh,
too.
dude, you're reading my mind.
So I thought her character was, interesting. I do think it's that kind of classical journey where it's like this broken character needs to go back and face the person who broke her, and that sets her free. But I don't know. I felt like that was the part that meandered a little bit for me.
Well, like she becomes like a drug addict.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Like this show, I think we were saying it on our monthly topic for last month, the Caped Question, in the beginning, because we were just starting to watch this show. And Star Wars is like very prudish. It doesn't really have a lot of characters having sex, having kids. It's not very like sexually explicit. And I don't really mean that in like a grotesque sense. I just kind of mean it in like a very general sense. Like, they don't really, like, besides Padme and Anakin, like, they really aren't talking about characters in relationships or anything like that. Even in Clone Wars, like, the Sabine Obi-Wan thing comes in, but like, there's really,
I was gonna say, I don't know if I'd call it like prudish. I'd call it just more like, it just treats it in a much more like fantasy way.
I think it's just prudish.
It's not
It's just
treating
not.
it in a
It's
real
just
way.
not doing it.
Because I wouldn't say what it does here is not prudish. Like, it's more just like a real life terrible thing. Like, you know
Andor
what I mean?
isn't. I mean,
Yeah.
like we're seeing an Imperial officer like take advantage of like
Trying to,
some person.
Yeah.
Like, to put it very simply. And it's like, we've never seen that in Star Wars. And she's using drugs, and she has like depression, and like, and
It's
just
talking about
different.
very real world problems, I
Yeah.
think, is more the difference than like necessarily not being like willing to tackle like sexual things. I think it's more the idea of, yeah, we're seeing like real life issues that people deal with every day depicted in Star Wars. That's something we rarely ever see, especially the drug addict stuff. I mean,
the death stick.
The
yeah,
death
like
stick.
we see drugs, but it's not like
presented in this way.
Nobody's like fucking like.
They're not
like
someone
fucking
strung
burning
out on the,
strung out on the street. That's what I was like.
I mean?
I'm thinking like Kensington kind of vibe,
Right,
like we're not seeing that
for sure.
We see beggars and poverty and stuff like that. Like think about the that clone trooper in Obi-Wan. Like that's the extent of it, and like everyone seems to kind of be poor.
Well,
and
I think you're pointing to what encapsulates the major difference of this show compared to other Star Wars. Like I do think it really does treat it in more of a realistic frame of mind, especially when tackling like these types of issues. Whereas the other stuff's very melodramatic and very heightened and very the dark side, the light side, all that stuff. It's just that's what Star Wars usually is. For sure.
I mean, look at Mon Mothma. It's interesting to see her go from like, I'll say attractive and very
youthful
wealthy
and exuberant,
and then in the last few episodes, I mean, they have to keep with the continuity. She kind of looks like she does in the original trilogy and stuff like that, but like she's wearing like rags, like she's.
I don't know if she was wearing rags.
She's not wearing a lavish robe.
Sure,
she's wearing
yeah.
a very basic.
By the way, serving so many good looks, but sorry.
Yeah, like the haircut is like very. It looks like she cut her hair in the middle of the jungle.
For sure, yeah.
Like she just looks the part.
I agree.
But we're seeing her a few episodes ago where she's hamming it up with her rich socialites, which is what she seems to be. And I think probably what most senators are, there's just socialites who kind of show up to the Senate and go, yay, they support the empire, but they're not really, speaking out or doing anything against all these atrocities.
Yeah. I mean, and they are bringing a lot of real world like events in at the moment, even talking about like genocide and talking about how someone is giving someone too much power and how just accepting that and going along with it can go a certain way. And that's a very real world, theme. And I think it's interesting to see explored very heavily within just the Star Wars universe and not shied away from, and very much pushing it to the forefront. And even this like question of do we resist or just play along, especially when it comes to the Gormans, it's like Cassian's right. If they try to do something, they're just going to kill themselves. They're going to kill all themselves. But then it's like, what, do you just sit here and do nothing? Do you never rebel? I think that's a very interesting philosophical kind of question. And I really like how it explains that.
Rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah, I like that moment.
Those two lines, like twice from two different people. It's like very interesting. The Gorman stuff was kind of boring until it wasn't. Especially with that one character, Mon Mothma's cousin.
Yeah.
Who's kind of involved, and like they do that first heist, and like the sort of like the insurgency there really begins, and like we didn't really talk. You mentioned it a little bit, but like Krennic's plan to essentially like start the rebel cell on Gorman so they can fuck the planet.
Yeah, exactly. Give them an excuse. Yeah, and that was Daedra's plan.
Yeah,
also,
and Krennic's inclusion, especially at the end, like when he finds out Daedra's knows about the Death Star. It's so crazy because I never would have assumed the Death Star was this like closely held secret with the Empire.
Well,
it never seemed like that.
Yeah.
Like think about. I mean, think about Revenge
Star
of the
Wars,
Sith.
though.
Like when we get that scene where like
Palpatine's just looking at it on his monitor.
It's Darth Vader. It's Darth Vader and oh my God, why am I forgetting his name? Tarkin.
Oh yeah,
looking
and
at it being built, and it's like, when is that? Like that's years after
the continuity. That's the thing. Yeah,
the Death Star didn't get built.
Yeah, because you see them, I think, placing the disc in that scene. I think you see them like starting to place the disc on it. So all that continuity shot in that way. Like you're saying, you could say that happened years later. That's a flash forward, if you will.
Yeah, but I love how like Darth Vader's never brought up, the Emperor's brought up but never shown. Even the Bad Batch, a show that I was going to talk about, like talks about the Force and spoilers, like Omega and her M count, and like the fact that she has one, and they're talking about the Palpatine cloning stuff, and Palpatine shows up to the facility like one time, and it's Ian McDermott as him. Finally, I guess he think the animated stuff is now important, so I guess he's coming back.
Well, and I'm sure
originally in the Clone Wars it was Who plays it in the original?
Oh yeah, fucking
Tim
Curry.
Yeah,
And then
it's
he
somebody
swapped
else.
out
But
after
then
it was it's what's his name who plays Maul too, and Starkiller.
yeah, you're right.
Sam Witwer.
Yeah. And then they finally got Ian McDermott. But like him showing up in the Bad Batch was like, whoa. You know? But and I think the fact that he doesn't show up in this holds a lot of restraint.
I think it does as well.
Because then it would have gotten it's the Star Wars porn.
Exactly. And, you know, I think they could have gotten away with maybe one scene with him, but the fact that they had that reservation to not, I think also shows you something about the Emperor at this time. Like, he's always seen, he's never heard, or he's always heard, but he's never seen. No, he's never even at the councils. He's just this kind of weird, elusive figure.
He's not at Senate. Yeah.
No, he's not at Senate. Who knows? I guess the idea is he's sitting in his palace, which is the Jedi Temple at this time, or which was the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. But yeah, I think they do a good job, and I'm glad you're right. I'm glad they never mention Vader because he should be a ghost. Almost no one should really know who and what he is.
And it seems like that.
He is, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that shows very good restraint. And I think another really good thing the show does, it doesn't shy away from the fact that the Rebels kind of suck too. And I think, you know, they try to explain that a lot within The Last Jedi. And, you know, come at me. I'm still a rather large fan of that movie, but I think that's one of its less successful aspects of showing, like, you know, everyone kind of sucks. The Rebels, the Empire, it's just we're selling it to everyone. We're selling these weapons. I think this does a very good job of illuminating that point in a better way, especially showing Luthen's character where he kills Lonnie. Well, after he's like, I got a family to save. I need you to get me out of here. And he's like, just give me the information and I'm going to fucking kill you because we're not getting you out of here. The easier way is to kill you. And then there's a few other moments that show that. I like that moment with Mon's like cousin or whatever, where he's like, all right, this guy's going off the deep end a little bit. Kill him. Get him killed. And we never see him again after the party. He's just dead. And Mon realizes that, and that's why she has a distrust.
Well, he was going to pull his funding.
Well, he was thinking, he was in a bad way. He was teetering. You could tell.
He was like, I don't think this is
like,
working out.
Well, it was more like he's like, listen, we need to talk. I'm losing money. I need some type of influx of cash here to make this better. And I'm losing money because of the Rebel Alliance. And she's like, okay, let's talk about this. I think he'll talk to me, and I don't think he's going to go off the loose end or go off the deep end. But Luthen's like, I'm not taking that fucking chance. I'm killing him.
Luthen is diabolical.
Relentless.
And so what was his origin? Was he some sort of Empire person? Was that?
So that was the thing I didn't quite he looked like a soldier that, deserted.
Yeah.
It seemed like at one point. He was a commander.
He finds Clea, I guess, who just happened to be
just stowaway on a ship.
Yeah.
And he takes her in, and I think he's starting to just witness all the atrocities of the Empire, and it's just like, that moment he's like, we have to lose 1,000 times before we can win. We just have to build ourselves up for now. We can't do anything. And I did think Clea herself was a really great character. She definitely got a lot more time to shine. That's his like daughter figure, right?
Yeah, that scene with like the art gallery and the party, and like they have the bug on that one painting, and they find out like something's a fraud, so they're gonna check everything, and like they have to go in there and like take that out. And the fact that she's like, like like the thing gets stuck and like she starts bleeding, and like a lot of blood too. Like the Gorman invasion and like the atrocity of war that is going on there, and insurgency is
a
crazy.
Super realistic depiction of violence in a way that we don't really see again in Star Wars. Like, sure, they're getting blasted with blaster fire, but it's still terrible, and it still feels real.
And then the KX droids come in, and they are fucking people up.
I do love how all they do is they just throw people. They're just like dead.
I think
dead.
It kind of makes like, I like the Clone Wars, and like, it's clones versus, the B2 battle droids and the B1 battle droids, and it's like they must be like leagues less powerful than these KX droids.
For sure.
I
think super battle droids are pretty tough, especially for like a normal person.
Yeah, but like they're not like the KX droids are like just seem like absolutely
tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like they're just throwing people around. They seem so much more lethal.
Definitely.
Than the
and just brutal. Yeah, they don't even have any
droids.
guns or anything either, too.
Yeah.
They're just beating people with their hands.
Yeah.
I did like the origin of K2. I like that we got to see that. I thought it was kind of just out of nowhere. I'm like, oh, this is how we do it. They're just going to cut him in half. And I was like, oh, you're going to take... I didn't really get why he was like, let's take him with us.
As soon as he looked at him, I'm like, okay.
Well, of course we knew it was happening, but it was just more like, well, what like inspired him necessarily to take this one? I guess the idea was that he's
We
an
can
empire.
use
Yeah,
it?
we can use it in some way. I guess that would make
like
sense.
the scavenger
Or even
aspect
like
of
as a
the-
double A, like he does approach all those empire people, and they're like, "What are you doing here?" And he just fucking fucks them. It's so good.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
exactly
just
what happens.
destroys him.
See ya.
Yeah, and even you're right with the blood. There's a moment where it cuts back to him, and he's walking out of like the transport as they're going up to get not Bix, Clea, and you see like the dude's head like smashed on the console, and there is blood like pulling out on the console. Again, lots of realistic depiction
The
of
fight
violence.
between Serial and Andor,
Dude!
brutal.
So
Brutal. I'm like, you know how to fight?
So do you know what Gilroy started as? Like one of his like earlier things?
No.
It was the Bourne franchise. He wrote the first, and I think directed the first movie. So I did see that action a little bit in that moment. Like Cyril comes out of nowhere, and it's like some legit hand-to-hand. He like smashed
They're
his head
beating
in.
the shit out of each other.
Yeah, it was a really surprisingly good hand-to-hand
And
fight
then
scene.
like like the fact that he's like, who are you?
Right, and that's
And
what
like
kind of makes him like.
it's I mean I think it's like all he's ever striving to be in the show is to be somebody.
To be so, well, but also like I think the fact that Andor means so much to him, he needs to kill this guy because of these things, and
unfair,
the fact
yeah.
that he's like, "Who are you again? Like, why are you? What's
Like,
this?"
yeah, like,
and
why
then
are
he's
you
like,
attacking me?
I think he's having that moment like, "You don't even remember," and then he just gets shot by the other
Right,
the other
he's like-
French dude. Yeah,
yeah, he's thinking of like how to even respond.
He's
to
like,
that, and
"What?"
dead,
Yeah,
dead.
It's good. I
Deidre
thought-
and Cyril's relationship is also very strange.
It's very odd. She's like the weird controlling person, but then I did like that moment at the end where he like breaks with her and
Dude,
he gets
and
super physical with it. Like,
again, like more like domestic like violence here.
Yeah.
Like he like puts his entire like it's
not like he just grabs her. Yeah.
throat
He's
and like
cho-
starts choking her. And like I'm like, this is wild.
both of them are psychotic in their own way, which is the like very interesting part of that relationship. And then she just ends up in a jail. And I did like that moment of just showing her just broken.
Her finding Luthen was like pretty interesting. I mean, like the way he goes out and Luthen's like fucking torch this place.
And then he just
and
fucking
then he starts like
jabs
melting the consoles, cuts his stomach open, and then Clea has to like, infiltrate the hospital
Great
and
scene.
kill him. Like, oh my
Can
God,
I just say
dude.
also I love that there wasn't like a moment of like, can I save him? I have to save you. She's like, no, I'm coming in here to kill him. That's it. I'm gonna
Right,
get in and out.
right,
And she
right.
has that moment of that touching moment. She kisses him and she leaves. And I think that's as poignant as you can get in that moment. And I think that they could have dragged it out in such a more annoying way. But I like that scene a lot of her just infiltrating too. And they're like, how many people did this? They're like, well, probably 3 at least from what we're seeing. I mean, no one person could have done all of this. Are you crazy?
Yeah, and then that other guy that Lonnie was with, like he's now like assuming control of that operation, and they're working at like the cameras, and
it was
and it's just like it's this one person that
And-
did all this.
they're going after someone who knows about like this is the most important thing that the Empire has going right
Dude,
now.
and
And
that-
even the head ISB guy, once he realizes it's gone, he's like, all right, well, I'm killing myself because I know either
Dude,
Vader's.
that was nuts.
I knew because
I'm
he's like,
well,
Vader's showing up or the Emperor's showing up. I'm not doing that. Click, and just kills. It's almost like committing seppuku. Like
I would. I'm in the same vein.
Yeah.
It's almost like a head of the SS fucking up,
Yeah.
and he's going to die. That's what it reminds me
yeah,
of.
exactly,
Like,
yeah.
These high-ranking Nazis are like all their operations are so important, and if they don't succeed, they're dead.
Yeah,
they
so
might as
why
well
not just kill myself?
themselves.
Yeah.
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 And like he goes, that one dude like walks out, gives him the moment, and like it's funny, like he like kind of gives him the respect to just do it.
Yeah, he gives them, and then
Like he knows what's gonna happen, and he walks out.
Yeah, the
with
way
the- with the
the
hands, like-
stormtroopers go, and they're like,
what do you think of those? Like, so that group that infiltrates the apartment building to find Clea, like what? Why aren't they stormtroopers?
so they're
are
all
they-
ISB.
Okay, they're ISB agents.
Yeah, they're ISB troopers, and that's their
Yeah.
uniform instead of the stormtroopers.
Yeah, because like they're fucking hard asses.
Yeah.
But then what about the people on Gorman? Like those green.
I think those are just regular troopers. So I think
But
idea,
they're officers.
yes.
Yeah,
Then I think that they're just I think you're right. I think those guys are
like they're
just regular
green and
troopers.
they go out and they kind of like that's what causes them to freak it. They freak out, and the Empire sniper shoots one of the dudes. And
Yeah, they just use all the shitty like young guys, and
Yeah,
when they even
yeah.
show up, they're like, "Oh, it's what are these kids doing here?" They're just it's what's the word? It's manufactured consent. It's all of these real life things that happen a lot in countries, especially that I don't know, maybe America does sometimes, where we go into a country and we stir up some shit in that country we're gonna have to come in and help this country out. Oops. Oh wait, I noticed you had a lot of good minerals there. Maybe we should take some of them. Like it's interesting to see Star Wars explored this way, in this very real way. And it reminds me of like James Gunn with Suicide Squad, where it's like, oh, the United States government went into another fucking country and committed all these atrocities and did all these experiments on people, and then comes in and sends this like agency team to just, clean it all out. Like, that's kind of almost like it's a very real life thing dressed in very comic book and very just silly, almost dressing in a way. Not that Star Wars is silly, they're treating it very seriously, but I just think that's a very interesting thing to see.
My big question with watching this is, where do all these Empire people come from?
What do you mean?
We know they're not all Clone Wars veterans. Tarkin is,
right?
But where are all these people coming from? Like,
I think there's some people that were in the
where do they have this military experience that they can get involved with this kind of thing?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot of higher ups from the Clone Wars that weren't clones.
Yeah.
And there's, people being drafted. It's been 30 years at this point. So, conscripts have been coming up through the army at this point. There's probably people with real world, expertise.
Right. But it just, even in the Bad Batch, I'm like, where are they getting these people from? Like,
it's a good point.
Are they just they've never they don't have combat experience and they're signing up? Like, where are they,
there could also be other types of wars. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Where are they getting these people
happening
from?
Right after, because they just start, that's a fair point, that aren't clones. That's a very good point.
I mean, they're still using clones in the Bad Batch, but
you don't see many higher ups being clones anymore, right? Is the idea there's no clone commanders.
And I mean, in the Empire, they do away with the clones, they do away with all the clone weaponry, and they make all new stuff, all new armor, everything. Like they phase everything out. That's such an interesting part of the Bad Batch, but you kind of even see it here with again, how the technology of the Empire shifts from all from the Bad Batch to this. I mean, it's all kind of set in place at that point. It's when that's what interests me, when all that happens. Where are they getting these people? How are they getting these people? Why are they so loyal? The Empire hasn't really been around that long. And what have they really done for these people?
They stopped a Jedi rebellion. They were going to take over the whole galaxy. The Emperor stepped in, and he was...
Jar Jar Binks is the reason he...
Yeah, he was.
He
gives them full... At the end of 3, he's the guy who gives them full control. He was horribly scarred.
And also, what happened to Jar Jar?
No, I don't know if there's a canon thing, but
wouldn't that be cool if he was involved in this show? People just can't take that character.
Star Wars porn at there. If you start involving him,
but Bail Organa, he's there. He's a Gungan ambassador.
I don't know what his canon ending is. I really don't.
I was even thinking about Mon Mothma. I'm like, what happens to Mon Mothma?
Well, she's still alive. Yeah, she's still alive. I think she just lives after the battle, the second battle, because she shows up in Return of the Jedi, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, but she's not in.
She's one of 2 women in Star Wars.
She's not in the sequel.
At the time. Yeah,
she's not in the sequel.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
So it's just kind of what happened to Mon Mothma? Why wasn't she in? I mean, what of the?
You're talking about things that they just didn't like. Mon Mothma was just a little character they had
I know!
at the time. They didn't fucking care. They don't know. She was the second woman in Star Wars, Gooch. That's it. And it's they just weren't thinking about it at that time. And I think that's just a product of obviously when these movies were made. But also another fun fact about Deidre, you probably know this, but do you know who else she plays?
Yeah, Yennefer.
I did not know that.
Yeah,
that's really cool. I mean, I hear it now. I can't stop hearing it in her voice, which is funny.
Yeah, which is funny because it's just kind of her normal voice.
No, it really is. I just did not realize that. Great voice. She's fantastic.
We talked about Luthen. Do you have anything to say about Saw Gerrera? I know I brought him up, but even up until we see that last scene where Saw is he's so fringe.
He's I'm running from you, and who am I running from, you or the Empire?
Forrest Whitaker must be having a blast.
He's having a great time
because he keeps coming back.
It's so good.
It's so interesting to see him in the Clone Wars, the young Saw Gerrera to Bad Batch, and then the Rebels, and how fucked up and how crazy.
He is just the example of rebellion
save the rebellion, save the dream.
he is the example of rebellion going to the nth degree of just like, this is maybe a little too much.
He's a
and he's not
terrorist.
even a friend of like, at this
Yeah.
point, he's barely a friend of the Republic, let alone the Empire, because he's just a terrorist. He's blowing up things and doing whatever the fuck he wants. He's not communicating with them.
Which is and like, again, I forget Rogue One, but like, that's the start of Rogue One, right? With him doing, when they talk about, it's like, dude, can you stop? Like stealing ships?
Yeah. It's like you're causing more issues for us. Yeah. No, I don't listen to you. No. Not today. We build hope. I do want to speak to also, I just think I'm surprised at how interesting it is to show the building of the Imperial like bureaucracy. I never thought I'd give a shit about that. Like the kind of cogs of the machine that are making the Empire actually run, like seeing the ISB.
Sort of what I was talking about.
Yes,
like, who are
like
these people? Like, where are they coming from?
For sure,
Yeah.
and it doesn't go as deep as that, but I think it still like gives you a good idea of how this empire is being run, and the ISB is obviously a stand-in for like a KGB type organization or something like that, where it's just this shadowy
CIA,
organization,
FBI,
what was the one in Germany? Starts with a G. The
Gestapo.
Yeah, the Gestapo. Like they were this secret government sect that people don't really even know that much about.
They're a
that just
secret
show
army.
that just show up at your door, and it's like, hey, ISB is investigating you. What's going on? And then they'll just take you away in the night. Again, very real world aspects just brought into Star Wars in a way that I think is very satisfying and interesting. I think this show's fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. It's gonna be slow. Your kids aren't gonna like it.
Yeah,
but I think
definitely
it's worth the time. Yeah, absolutely.
This is the Star Wars we want. We want the Star Wars for adults. Well, the
I
animated
think
stuff
I'll
is pretty
take
good,
some. I'll take some in between, of course. I like some gradation.
We know we're getting Ahsoka season 2. Is this it for Star Wars show? This is that.
Well, for Star Wars shows, I don't know. Probably.
I mean, again, Ahsoka season 2 is being made, but like, I feel like Andor is part of that old guard.
I think they're very much
show.
trying to focus on movies again. There's that Ryan Gosling movie, which I'm not going to hold my breath. I actually think is getting made. We'll see, though, without how many fucking movies have been canceled from them.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to... I mean, like, Mandalorian and Grogu has to come out. Like,
yes.
That's... Like, that even coming out seems like not happening. Even though
I know, but I know. That's going to be the first one where I'm like, wow, it's actually, like, here.
Like,
we're seeing
when we
a
go
movie.
out to see that, it's going to be nuts.
The last Star Wars movie was Solo. Which, by the way,
horrible.
It's pretty good. Everyone's tainted by like the idea of like The Last Jedi at the time and stuff like that. It's a very solid Star Wars film that gives you a great origin story to Han Solo, and I think Alden Ehrenreich is fantastic. And I will not take the hate. It's okay, you can say it. But
shut the fuck up. Trio.
It's really fantastic.
We're gonna have to do a Star Wars.
I think it's actually very much like
if a new phase of Star Wars begins, that's when we do the rewind review.
Sure. Did we review it at the time?
Yes.
That's what
I think on DNN.
I think
Rogue
so too.
One was one of the first reviews we ever did.
Mm-hmm.
It was me and Ian. I think you might have still been at school.
No, I wasn't, because we didn't start DNN until I was back.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
So
I started it as you were coming back.
No, you didn't, Gooch.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm absolutely
Because
sure.
the first episode
there was no DNN until I came back. I came up with it. I just wasn't on the. We've been through this 1,000 times.
You weren't on the first few episodes.
I wasn't on the first episode, the Metal Gear episode. After that, I was on every one.
I thought it was because you were gone.
No. No.
I thought it was because you were you were still coming back.
No. I was back. I was here. I came up with the name. I
know
discussed
you
it with
did.
you. I was here. I just wasn't on the first one because it was Metal Gear Solid.
So
and you were doing it.
Where were you doing Rogue One? I'm curious.
I don't know. I was probably sick or something, or I couldn't. I'd be curious.
Yeah,
to look back.
it was just me and Ian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was probably sick or something. I just couldn't be.
Maybe
on.
I mean,
I was home way before we started even talking about it.
I'm not contesting you as much as you think, but regardless, whenever that new trilogy of Star Wars movies comes out, whenever that happens, we are 110% doing all 9.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Maybe not Rogue. I mean, like, it's like, do we do Rogue One and Solo? It's
honestly,
like
Rogue One, those would be fun to go back and relook at. Like have it under the rewind review banner though. Like so we have our original
just do
episode.
those two.
Yeah.
That's how I'd want to do it.
Yeah.
Because like honestly, I'm tempted to watch Rogue One now that
I'm very tempted. Yeah, I almost kind of want to do it tonight.
But I'm like because I've been like, so when I started the Clone Wars, I did episode 1 and then episode 2. Then the Clone Wars begins, and then capped the Clone Wars with episode 3.
Right.
I did it how God intended, but That's really it for Andor.
I think so too.
It's got some lows, but the highs are fucking good.
And I think the lows are just, it's a lot of talking. That's just what it is. And I don't necessarily hate that, but yeah, it's going to be a little long in the tooth sometimes. That does do it for us, though, Gooch. Thank you all for watching with us live on twitch.tv/Delco Nerd Network. We really do appreciate your time. You can find this podcast, anywhere podcasts are found. Just search our name on your service of choice. Got a Facebook page, a Discord channel, all that good stuff will be linked down below. We are at Delco Nerds on all the social medias, Facebook page and Discord channel, as I just mentioned. You can find all this information on our website, delconerdnetwork.com. You can even email us your comments, questions, or concerns to delconerds@gmail.com. We'd be happy to get back to you. But for Gooch, I've been Trio. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay nerdy. We will see you next time.